Kaizoku ni ore wa naru. Today, around the world, millions of fans who love Japan's hit manga anime series One Piece are rejoicing for many reasons, including the release today, March the 10th, of the live-action series Season 2 on Netflix. Why do so many fans love Eiichiro Oda's comical earnest adventures of Captain Monkey D. Luffy and the Straw Hat Pirates?
Speculative fiction, like no other genre, reflects the creativity of God.
If you look at the scriptures, you're going to have to see that God uses imagination more than rational discourse.
We are supposed to be image bearers for a vastly creative God.
Reading fantastical fiction opened a portal in my imagination for a place other than just a materialistic world.
I experienced the gospel story with the mind of someone who loved adventure and loved the idea of light conquering darkness.
We're wired for stories that reflect how we see the world in ways that are true.
The story is either pointing to Christ or it's pointing to our need for Christ.
Welcome aboard Fantastical Truth. 'Tis a fine ship from lorehaven.com whose mission is to help you, the fan, escape bad books and find the best Christian-made fantastical stories, fantasy, sci-fi, mostly Christian-made, but sometimes stories we get from other places like One Piece and other manga and anime. I'm E. Stephen Burnett, and I publish lorehaven.com. I'm the captain here. I'm also the author of Above the Circle of Earth, a sci-fi novel that launched 1 year ago from Enclave Publishing. This is episode 303. Why do many fans crown One Piece king of the anime? Now, this one is a very personal topic for me because I have to give a shout out to my one-time co-author, Ted Turneau, for introducing me to this series back before it was cool. Ted wrote a nonfiction book called Apologetics, and he quoted frequently from One Piece in this book. Apparently his kids at the time got him into this wacky series about a young man, a shonen, who wants to be king of the pirates, and yet he's a rather scrawny person, but for one special gift. He is now made of rubber. He ate a devil fruit, the gum fruit in this world where certain fruits can give you superpowers. And so now he can get into fights. He's a very bendy, flexible sort of person. And he recruits a crew, and they all go off sailing on the sea, getting into adventures, crossing the Grand Line, facing storms and other pirates, evil pirates, because you see Luffy has started a very friendly pirate crew, the Straw Hat Pirates, the Mugiwara, and they're in search of freedom and adventure, not necessarily treasure and pillaging. This started off as a hit manga from the creator Eiichiro Oda. And some of y'all already know, if you're familiar with manga, that in Japan, it is generally a single creative voice who runs a story, almost always writing it and illustrating it and dealing with the business concerns. It's really quite extraordinary what they've been able to pull off over there. Unlike some American comics, which are passed down from creator to creator and often owned by a corporation. Just this past week, it seems, One Piece hit a milestone. 600 million copies have been sold, matching the sales of Superman, the world's first comic superhero, who has been active in circulation since the 1940s. And One Piece started in 1997, and it has 1,170 plus chapters. So it's been going only 30 years. The reason why I'm talking about this is because, yeah, it's a big month for One Piece fans. It's a big month for all the milestones, and it really does reveal why fans love these kinds of stories, why we love earnest stories that are epic and heartfelt, and yet also have a lot of wacky characters and caricatures and boss fights, and just ranges all over that emotional spectrum. Eiichiro Oda, as I said, is the creator, and this is his Pirates with Powers story, now sailing toward its final arcs. So this has been going 30 years almost already, and it's probably still got another 2 or 3 to go. The popular anime, by the way, has been in a hiatus since Christmas, but it will resume in April. They finished up one arc, and now they're heading into another one. And as I mentioned at the top, today Netflix is christening the season 2 of the live action series. And in 2023, they had a season 1, which against all odds was actually extremely good. They are adapting what would seem to be the unadaptable. And they're taking part in that breaking of what fans used to call the anime to live action curse. There's no curse anymore. The curse has been undone. By the way, I'd already been planning this episode, and then that milestone hit, 600 million copies in sales, or 600 million copies sold. And then Eiichiro Oda got his own crew together, and he did something rather extraordinary. He basically made a fan meme come to life, where he wrote down the answer to the question of what is the One Piece, the MacGuffin, the treasure that all the pirates in this world are looking for. What is it? And he locked this in a chest. He wrote it down on paper, apparently for the first time, locked it in a treasure chest, sealed it with a key, and then he had a ship go out and bury it deep in the ocean, 651 feet deep. I think it's feet or meters or fathoms. I have to check that. And he seems to have initiated a great pirate era, at least of fans who have the resources and the time and the motivation to try to go find it. But what will they do when they find it? Will they live stream opening it up and spoil it for all the world? Well, then all the other fans will hate them. I think more likely, even if they do find it, it belongs in a museum. But spoiler alert, I don't think I have to find the One Piece myself. I think I might know the secret. And by the end of this episode, I myself will either spoil it or make a baka out of myself. And either way, I'll be on the record. And who knows, maybe this one will age really well. By the way, elsewhere at Lorehaven, we have started our book quest into the fantasy novel Ember Gold. That is exclusively in the Lorehaven Guild, our castle in the cloud, which you can join by signing up for Lorehaven updates. At lorehaven.com, you can see that subscription box, and then we'll send you that exclusive code to join the Lorehaven Guild on Discord. Our top sponsor is Enclave Publishing, which is bringing us another treasure that releases today in bookstores and most exclusively from their own publishing company, Enclave Publishing. What would you sacrifice to save your family and your home world? This is Firebreak, book 1 in the new Firebird Interlude trilogy by last week's guest, Kathy Tyers, the Carol and Christie award-winning and best-selling author of Star Wars, The Truce at Bakura, and it is now available. Lady Firebird Caldwell returns to the world of her birth, Nataya, intending to introduce her young sons to the noble electors while her husband Brennan conducts a military inspection. When mysterious ships in distress suddenly approach the planet, the electorate sends her to initiate first contact. Forced to work alongside a vengeful childhood enemy, Firebird uses everything within her power, even her passion for music, to negotiate, only to discover their alien technology threatens all the worlds she holds dear. Facing ruthless betrayal, Firebird undertakes a deadly journey to salvage the mission. Brennan must make daring use of his telepathic powers to save human life in the galactic whirl, including that of their young sons. But saving the worlds might force Brennan to give the order that would mean Firebird's death. In a galaxy poised on the edge of ruin, survival may demand the ultimate sacrifice from them both. That is Firebreak, kickstarting the new Firebird Interlude trilogy, which picks up after the ending of the first Firebird trilogy, but before the final 2 books, which have already been written. And it is now available wherever fantastic books are sold. You can ask for Firebreak at your favorite bookseller or your local library, or order it online from Amazon. It's also available as an audiobook from Oasis Audio. Moving on to our second sponsor here, kind of a 1A level, Realm Makers, the 2026 conference and expo. It is now 3.5 months away. Don't miss the premier gathering for Christian storytellers of fantasy and science fiction, calling all authors and artists in the industries of graphic novels, gaming, animation, and audio drama, as well as film and TV. This is Realm Makers, where you will find your tribe, own your craft, and advance your career. By the way, I just saw that Kathy Tyers, as I mentioned last week, I think is one of the keynote speakers, but they have another one too, Steve Taylor, the Christian musician that some of our older listeners may recall from back in the day. He was active in the 80s. I'm interested in hearing his take on the Christian creative pursuits, and registration is now open for this in-person and virtual event this June 24th through 27th at the St. Louis Union Station Hotel. Get 3 full days of training from professionals, plus the epic Realm Awards costume banquet to celebrate the best novels released last year. Readers, This isn't just for writers and creators. You too are invited to the expo on Friday and Saturday. And for you, shopping is free. General public can just walk right on in, but tickets are required to attend the sessions and panels, as well as meet and greets with special guests. Explore more at realmmakers.com. I'll be there. Zachary Russell, my co-host, who is absent for this episode, he will be there as well. We'll have our big Lorehaven booth, and of course, I'll be signing some Above the Circle of Earth copies and maybe dropping a few hints about the sequels. All right, now for another ship and another amazing crew, One Piece. Chapter 1, One Piece plots with deep, heroic ambition. Now, there's a lot of manga and anime that have characters with big goals and big dreams, but somehow One Piece has managed to kind of become the defining story of this shonen genre. Shonen just means young men, although there's obviously a lot of female fans of One Piece as well. But the hero is a young man, Monkey D. Luffy, who has set this goal of becoming king of the pirates. Kaizoku ni, king of the pirates. Kaizoku means pirates, by the way. And Luffy's not alone, of course. He recruits a crew, starting in those very first episodes of the East Blue arc, including Zoro, who wants to be the world's top swordsman, Usopp, who's a liar who wants to be a brave warrior of the sea and actually fight people more honorably than just telling tall tales. Nami has a bit more difficulties to get through, but she would love to draw a map of the world. And Sanji would like to find the legendary All Blue, a supposedly lost ocean where you can find all the fish, all the ingredients, because Sanji is a chef. He loves cooking and kicking. So he never, ever uses his hands to fight, only his legs, because his hands are for cooking. Anyway, lots of great characters there. And of course, there's lots more crew members that join in. Very colorful, all with their different powers. Some have also eaten devil fruits. Others have not. They've just trained really, really hard so they can get really, really strong. And they all have really big dreams, but they follow Luffy and they want him also to become king of the pirates. And over many years and story arcs, all of their goals have really kind of come together. I've noticed, at least in the anime, maybe the manga is different, but I don't hear a whole lot about Zoro saying, well, I don't really care about your goal. I want to become the world's top swordsman. All of their dreams coalesce. And really, it becomes this amazing picture of a found family where all the family members are united in their pursuit, yes, of their own dreams. But that means that their dreams have become deeper. They're more complex. And they overlap. Now they all want to make Luffy king of the pirates. And there are some difficulties there, of course, when you have the whole follow your dream idea. But I will say that this is, for such a wacky, crazy fantasy series, this in One Piece is one of the more realistic takes on follow your dream. After all, when you really have a dream, if it's a good dream, sometimes you will be led to sins like idolatry or disloyalty. After all, I've got my dream and you've got yours. And maybe we are united in one pursuit for now, but maybe the next moment we'll be turning on each other. Luffy will not do that. He wants to be king of the pirates, yes. But I think even more than that, he wants to have a family. He wants to have a nakama, as we'll talk about in the next chapter. For me personally, I find this extremely inspiring. This devotion to one's personal ambition that is for the good of other people, not just for selfish reasons. Luffy acts selfish sometimes, but he really is not. And sometimes his crew also acts selfish, and they have their own issues to work through for sure. But really, they are the most heroic, sacrificial characters, especially once they've learned to work together, that you'll ever find in any fantasy story. However, I do have to comment on one element that some people are familiar with manga and anime and Japanese culture in particular. There is a corollary or a side effect to this devotion to one's goal or one's personal dream, and that is overworking, workaholism. I've got to say, there was one time when my wife and I were watching One Piece. We were still in the days of catching up, and there was a side story featuring Kobe. Is it Kobe or Cody? I forget. I think it's Kobe, who has a different dream from Luffy. Luffy wants to be king of the pirates, and Kobe wants to be this amazing member of the Navy. He wants to uphold justice, and the Navy is actually the enemies of the pirates, and vice versa, at least on paper. But Luffy encourages him to follow his dream, and there's mutual respect there, even though they are technically on different sides. But there is this scene where these two characters who were enemies, but they're now learning to work together. They're working for this one big Navy officer who is just driving them crazy with all the work they have to do. They're barely getting any sleep. They're having to swab the decks. I forget if they had to be punished for something, and yet both of them stop complaining. They have to learn to work together. They really have no choice. But it is something like a kind of indentured servitude, but not in a bad way, because he's got his dream after all. This is what he signed up for. And at that moment, I actually had to stop watching One Piece. I just felt it was too much. It was not the story that I needed at the time. And I've always remembered that. And then I asked myself immediately, okay, why? Why do I need to avoid this story? Why is it not good for me tonight or this stage in my life? The answer is this. At the time, I was working a lot. I was frankly being overworked, and I was confronting something like burnout. Maybe it is burnout. I'm not entirely sure. But at that time, I needed rest. I didn't quite need a fantastic story, at least how I felt at the time, telling me to get back to work and follow my dream. And, however far I thought I'd push myself even further than that. It was just absolutely exhausting. So there is that side effect there. Following your dream can only go so far. We're not like the anime hero who can get beaten into the ground and then suddenly remember the power of friendship and find that last reservoir of magic power to blast the foe. It doesn't always happen that way in real life. The Christian sees things a little bit differently. We're mortal. We have limits. And Jesus is the only hero who can do absolutely everything and win over every villain. But I think this idea of ambition, is a great reminder that adventure, of setting a goal, of putting your hand to the plow, as Jesus said, and not looking back, it can be very hard, even when you're not sinning, even when you are maintaining loyalty to family and friends, even when you're pursuing holiness. Jesus, however, speaks very well of people setting goals like that. Jesus appeals to people's desire for the kingdom, and he's asking them, what are you going to give up in order to get this? Jesus told a parable of someone who discovered a treasure in a field. And so in order to get it, he sold everything he had in order to get money enough to buy the field and find that treasure. So it's good to look for treasure. Just make sure that it is a treasure that is worth looking for, and that you're not going to commit idolatry or burn yourself out truly in order to get it. And in a world where a lot of narratives are telling us that, we're great just as we are. We don't need to change. Everyone else just needs to change in order to suit our pursuits. Well, I think that the world of One Piece and the heroism of its protagonists makes a worthy challenge. This is a great spot to find fantastic treasure, really unlocking the highest purpose of humanity. We ought to have ambitions. God gave Adam and Eve the Garden of Eden, and he gave them a job to do. He wanted them to spread the garden out across the creation. We have limited success doing that now because, as we will hear later, the world has been torn apart by various evil forces, starting with human sin. But fortunately, we have our own king who's coming back to set things right. Switching genres now for our second sponsor, Dan Dates, with this brand new release, which won the Aurora Award from the aforementioned Realm Makers Conference. This is the Whole Man, HOLE-man, endorsed by our own Zachary Russell, who said that he loved the realistic action, the witty banter, and the story's redemptive heartbeat. The Whole Man is the exciting sci-fi debut by military test pilot Dan Dates. A dying rebellion, a broken family. Can an executioner bring both back to life? The Whole Man has the ugliest job in the universe. He feeds human sacrifices into a black hole. Disgraced pilot Baird Larson is the Whole Man. He's alone on a space station completing his grim duty. He's told he's appeasing the gods. Baird just wants to finish his penance and return home, but will his daughter even give him a second chance? Then the next sacrifice arrives and she changes everything. Mysia is a poised rebel with a provocative fire. She doesn't beg for mercy. She explodes his beliefs. Torn between duty and treason, Baird must choose: execute another innocent or join the Shadower rebellion against the overlord who made him a monster. The fight ahead is brutal, and Baird's combat skills won't be enough. Can he break free from his past sins, save those he loves, and bring hope to humanity's last outpost among the stars? Or will the hungriest black hole consume him first, the one within himself? The Whole Man is available now in all formats, including a multi-narrator audiobook. We've got the links and that awesome cover in our show notes for this episode, and all the sponsors are in the links for the show notes for episode 303, or you can go straight to sci-fi-pilot.com to learn more about The Whole Man from debut author Dan Dates. Well, talking of black holes, there's actually an evil One Piece villain whose identity I won't spoil here, who has a similar association with black holes, and I have a strange feeling he's going to be a final boss as the anime or manga first and then anime draws to a close. Chapter 2, however, One Piece recruits a Nakama, a pirate crew. This story, as I mentioned, is not just about individuals with their self-centered interests. There's a great emphasis on personal loyalty, and fans have fallen in love with all, is it 10 now? I think it is 10 members of the Straw Hat Pirate crew, and every single one of them has grown in their relationships with one another. I now have, I think, 9 of the action figures, just because each hero and a few heroines as well are just so distinctive in their personalities, in their backstories. You really know where everyone's come from and reasons for their goals. And the live action series, by the way, is got a great start in building up that cast as well. The young woman playing Robin, for example, fans have just absolutely embraced her, along with all the live action crew members. So that, by the way, goes for you. If you can't watch cartoons or read manga, it's just not your thing, or even if you do, maybe you just do not like the art style. Well, that live action series, I can, at least having seen season 1 2 or 3 times through, commend that to you. And season 2 looks absolutely fantastic as well. What is a Nakama then? You may already know this if you're a fan deep in the lore, but it is a Japanese word that basically refers to something like a found family, a crew, a bunch of friends gotten together whose friendships are deep and abiding. But I have seen some tropes, some people laugh at Fast and Furious, family and all that. I think One Piece is one of the best ways to do that found family trope better. For one thing, it does not sacrifice or ignore natural family bonds. For another thing, it's not just people going out and picking their own friends and controlling those relationships. Sometimes those friendships just get made because of circumstances or other events there. Some of the members of Luffy's crew have deep childhood trauma, by the way. Some of that's caused by evil family members, and maybe the family members have been killed by pirates or the evil world government or something. But either way, they all come in with these different stories, and it will sometimes take hundreds of episodes for you to find out why someone is the way they are. That includes the villains too. One Piece villains are amazing. And they kind of resolve another riddle that I think fans have been debating is, well, why can't we just have absolutely evil characters? Does everyone have to have a tragic backstory? Or other fans who say, why do we have to have just tragic backstory characters? I'd rather just have evil characters. Well, One Piece resolves that dichotomy. The most evil characters who are insane despots and need to go down may also have tragic backstories. It helps us to understand how they got the way they are, but it never, ever excuses their behavior. There's a few instances, though, of like secondary villains in One Piece who end up turning into good guys. And of course, they become fan favorites because everyone loves a repentant traitor. But that doesn't mean there's not a lot of pain to go through. There is a lot of pain and trauma. It is serious, even in this wacky series where you may see, a guy who can change his face, and yet he dresses up in a ballerina tutu with a couple of flamingos on his back for reasons I still don't even know. Bon Clay, you are an enigma. Trauma, however, in One Piece is serious. Death is permanent. If people die, they're gone. And their loss changes everything about the plot. Personal loss stings the characters too. even our heroes who have to face this over and over and over and over. So, as crazy as it sounds, One Piece is good training for grief and suffering. There's one moment in particular where Luffy seems to have everything and everyone he loves taken away from him. And while the anime is almost always very low budget, at least up until recently when they really cut loose with the high budget shots, there's a moment, it was years ago, I forget when exactly, where Luffy is just paralyzed by grief and he is swearing in Japanese and he's pounding the ground. And I'm sitting there going, I can't believe I'm watching a cartoon that is making me feel this way. It's incredible. That kind of caricature and the realism, even in the unreality, is extraordinary. And that's what fans are connecting with. It's not just because it's weird and wonderful and fantastical. It's because it's realistic underneath all of that. Wacky realism. I don't know what else to call it. But that's one reason why One Piece has gotten so successful. This guy commits to the bit. There's no apology for the wackiness or the emotions. If someone is in grief, it's not just a little subtle sniffle here and there. They are bawling buckets, and you can't even really laugh, even though it is so ridiculous looking, because Oda has just taken you along for the ride, and you are feeling that way with that person. And every cry is an ugly cry in the One Piece universe. And I do find that very refreshing. I think a lot of fans have actually felt permission to feel more strongly, even while they're seeking to recover. One Piece is teaching honesty about the grief and trauma, but also resilience all at the same time, just by showing you heroes who are doing this wholeheartedly and helping one another do this. There's another interesting aspect of One Piece, which is unique even among manga and anime. And it's this, that Oda, I think wisely, avoids and even often mocks the idea of romantic relationships among the crew. Now, by mock, I mean it's mainly Sanji. Sanji definitely crushes on all of the pretty girls, and he spins around in circles and does all these crazy cartoon moves. His eyes turn into hearts. And at one point, he, it's not just exaggeration for the screen or for the viewer's sake. Like he actually has a nosebleed upon finally meeting a mermaid. And apparently in Japanese, the idea is that if you're really, really, really crushing on somebody or really, really going nuts with the lust, let's just be honest, then your nose is going to bleed. So Sanji actually ends up, the trope ends up backfiring, and Sanji's in real danger of dying because he suffered blood loss. So it's pretty nuts. But there are no romantic relationships among the crew. And against all odds, too, the live action series did not change that. The only female crew member right now is Nami, and it's just a bunch of siblings on a pirate ship together. Sibling energy, fans do love that. And I don't think it's because fans are opposed to romantic relationships. I hope not. I would be concerned if this was a sort of, well, let's neither marry or be given in marriage sort of application there. I mean, all of the crew members have parents, and many of them are loving couples, so far as we know. There's some, difficult relationships, difficult family backgrounds to be sure, but Oda obviously celebrates romance. It's just not among the crew. This is a story, first and foremost, meant for basically what we call middle school boys. That's kind of the primary audience, but there are so many teenage and young adult and adult fans. Like the One Piece fandom just spans the ages, and I think that avoiding those will they, won't they, pair up type questions really helps focus the story, which could otherwise spiral off into so many different directions any more than usual. I think too, by the way, that is one reason why the One Piece live action series on Netflix broke the live action anime curse. You could imagine beforehand that they would override that rule by Oda and override some other rules, but apparently Oda, bless his heart, has very tight creative control. And I don't know how many stuff he's vetoed, but, all due respect to the show creators as well, they seem to be on the same manga page as the original One Piece creator himself. Third and final sponsor, I'm back with Above the Circle of Earth, my sci-fi novel with another ship and another fine crew. And I wish I could tell you about the sequels, but you will hear about it here on this podcast and at my personal site, estephenburnett.com, as soon as I am able to state or reveal anything. Above the Circle of Earth is a science fiction novel with Brock and Alicia Rivers, a married couple who made a terrible mistake in their past. They went out into the secular world outside of their Christian preserve, and they tried to do evangelism, and it's not allowed. This helped send them to Mars in exile for 7 years, and then 7 years of difficult toil and no life prospects later, they end up recruited back to Earth to start the first space mission as they had dreamed. It's not allowed on Earth, but you can do it in the solar system. But unfortunately, the solar system is also ruled by the one world humanistic cause, which will not be happy about this, but neither will be some of their own people, their own home world. A lot of people are opposed to this mission because, sometimes Christians are just pretty happy being comfortable. This will lead to a lot of action scenes and some very difficult questions about how you can do God's mission in the world while also protecting your own nakama. That is Above the Circle of Earth, a sci-fi novel launched from Enclave Publishing 1 year ago, and it is available in all systems. Got the audiobook, got the hardcover, and we got the digital version. Sequels are coming in the coming years, so follow estephenburnett.com, or of course this podcast. I'll mention the updates when I get them about Above the Circle of Earth. Chapter 3, One Piece sails to fantastical new worlds. So we covered the heroes and their goals, and we covered the nakama, this idea of those special valued relationships where everyone's sacrificing for one another in pursuit of their collective dream. Well, fans also praise Oda's world building. This is a fantasy world, although there's some modernizations in there, like, t-shirts and corporations, and we even get into some sci-fi later. But the first genre that he gets into is fantasy, and it is massively creative. Oda basically decides, okay, so what genre is One Piece? Is it fantasy? Is it science fiction? Or is it supernatural horror? And fans know he answers yes. All of those take their starring roles in different arcs. And the last one was heavy on the sci-fi, for example, in land and sky, and obviously on and beneath the deep ocean. Each island, though, brings a new kind of world into this series. And I think that's one way that the One Piece manga originally has stayed so fresh and original, despite going on for 30 years. It's the same creator. It's the same cast of characters, although there was a time jump that kind of rebooted their appearance and their power sets a little bit. But each world is different. Each one has a new crisis, a bunch of new supporting characters, allies, enemies, Navy officers with mixed motives, and often a whole lot of evil leaders to fight. I have actually lost track of the number of times that Luffy and the Straw Hat Pirates have toppled dictatorships. And lots of people right now, as I record this, are talking about dictators in other countries and evil systems, and what do we do about those? And in the One Piece world, Luffy just does things. He has no qualms whatsoever about landing on an island and participating in regime change. Of course, it sometimes is a little bit easier in the One Piece world, or at least the consequences are a whole lot friendlier. Like you see the captives liberated, you see the villain go down, and often it takes several tries and a whole lot of new catastrophes to make it happen, but it does happen eventually. And each time you feel that sense of glorious celebration. The devil has fallen. The heroes are victorious. And often it seems that Luffy, who's a rather simple-minded person sometimes, although with his own complexities, is doing this as kind of incidental. He just wants to help keep a little girl fed. And so he will basically fight the Dragon King of the land. Well, Luffy also has strong views of loyalty to friends, whether it's his pirate crew or any other friends that he meets along the way. And he has strong ideals of freedom. Luffy is a free enterprise guy, but it's not, again, freedom for its own sake or freedom for his own selfish pursuits. It's a kind of freedom that, because he's such a large personality and is so generous, unlike other pirates, he wants to share these good gifts with as many people as possible. Hint, for the possible identity of the One Piece later on in this show. By the way, I should have laid odds on this commitment to the theme having real world repercussions, because as we've mentioned in a previous episode or two, especially starting last year, we started seeing in the real world the Straw Hats' Jolly Roger flag appearing in real protests. in Nepal, in the Philippines, in Malaysia. I wouldn't be surprised if it popped up in Iran within the next few weeks or so. People are loving this story around the world. It's been dubbed into so many languages. Obviously, the live action and the merchandise from Netflix is going to take that even further. And so we see then people resonating with these universal themes of rising up against injustice, defeating dictators, and pursuing freedom and loyalty to friends. So real world effects for such a wacky and yet sincere manga and anime series. Well, I want to end this chapter with just a few disclaimers. I'm obviously a fan of One Piece since my wife and I started watching the anime. I've not read the manga, so if you have, don't spoil it for me, all right? The anime is always going to be a few steps behind if they do it right. But I'm a big fan of the anime, and now I'm a big fan of the live action as well, which would, as I mentioned, help people who recoil from the art style. Even some anime fans do not like Oda's art style, which is reflected very well from what I've seen of the anime. There's a heavy emphasis on caricature, wacky proportions, especially those first few episodes of the anime. They were literally made in the late 90s, early 2000s. So some people think, well, maybe they've aged a little poorly, or the pacing is slow and you have to watch a few dozen episodes before it really gets good. And I think some of those observations are true. But I will note, especially as an issue of conscience for Christian listeners, that like many other manga and anime, this one, especially for shonen, the young male readers, is fond of kind of quasi-nudity, immodest clothing, imprudent, and sexualized imagery sometimes. I don't mean that there are intimate scenes or things, because as I mentioned, there's no romance aboard the Straw Hats. But it is played for laughs often. It's dudes without their shirts, or sometimes even women almost entirely without their shirts. And, there's swimwear and, a lot of revealing attire, and, the collectibles are sold, these kind of pinup appearance and stuff. That's just kind of part of the genre. But I say that as a caution, not a justification. It is something to be aware of whenever you're watching One Piece or reading it, or really any other anime in this genre. But I did unlock, I think, something that helps me. For one thing, these are not real human beings. Nobody looks like that. If the women look like that, they would have chronic back pain. It's just keeping it real, folks. It's just so exaggerated that if you are attracted to that, then okay, you definitely you're a reality challenged person. Maybe you need to stop watching anime and ask out the wholesome girl from church and treat her like a sister. But another element that helps me is this. Yeah, these aren't real people, but also who drew those pictures? Men. Almost certainly men drew those pictures. Men drew that character in the revealing attire, and they've probably been working 70-hour weeks, especially if the episode is overdue. And so instantly you sort of do this judo move of what could be maybe a temptation to a sin there, and you turn it into pity for the person who had to draw that picture instead. My wife and I decided this shall be called Anime Rules. We've seen some limited usefulness with applications to exploitative moments in live action media as well. Maybe I'll do a whole episode about that at some point. It's something I don't think you'll find in any of the Christian nonfiction books about how to defeat temptation in your own life. Anime Rules. I'm working on this theory. In this essay, I will. Yeah, that'll be another episode. Anyway, those are a few cautions, along with the general cautions about violence and swearing, even in Japanese. Like the heavy emotions and anger really could be temptation to some people. There's just a lot of big feelings, and so I would not recommend at all this series for anybody below the age of 12. And for even anybody like a teenager, you might want to, if you're a parent or know a kid or something, you may want to have some hard conversations about this. Watch it with them first, draw out the themes, treat the exploitative stuff as a bug, not a feature, but really go after the treasure that is the strong sense of morality in this show. And of course, the expertise in the storytelling and the reflection of truly good common graces in the world of One Piece. All right, bonus here. This is what I promised at the top of the show, the buried treasure at the end. So I don't know how well this is going to age. And frankly, I don't even know if someone has already outlined this theory. To me, it could seem obvious, but maybe it's too obvious. My point is to give a little concession here. You may not want to listen to the rest of this if I turn out to be right. If I turn out to be wrong, also don't listen to this because I don't want to look like baka, like an idiot. But I really like the way this theory turns out. So let's see how it sounds to you. Have I found the One Piece? What is the One Piece? Gol D. Roger, the first king of the pirates, was executed in public by the Navy. And right before he died, he challenged people to go out and find the One Piece. It is real, he said, and whoever finds it on this far-flung island gets to be king of the pirates. And so thus began the great pirate era, and men took to the seas in pursuit of glory. What is the One Piece then? Is it just a single gold coin with immeasurable worth? Is it a traditional treasure? Is it a cave full of riches? Others, of course, half jokingly say, well, the One Piece is just the nakama, the friends we made along the way. Oda has actually addressed that, and he said, no, it's an actual treasure. It is actually a tangible thing that will be at the end. It's not just some clever little trope like that. I think I know what the One Piece is, and I think that the series has given us plenty of clues to identify it. Some that are actually scattered throughout the first parts of this episode. It turns out that for that little treasure chest that just last week, early March, Oda-san wrote down, as for the One Piece, it is. And then he tore the paper in half, it seems, and put the answer into the chest. He locked the chest with the key, and they put that chest inside of like the sort of transparent spherical thing, apparently pressurized or waterproof. And then they sank that into the ocean, presumably somewhere off the coast of his home country, Japan. I believe that if fans were to find that treasure, bring it up from the ocean, somehow unlock it, because I think Oda still has the key, and then found that page within, I think that they would read two words in Japanese. And I think that those two words would be the world. I think the One Piece is the world for a simple reason. The future king of the pirates needs a kingdom. And the entire series has been about exploring these lands that eventually will be the kingdom that I think the king of the pirates, Monkey D. Luffy, will have earned. They've explored all these disconnected islands in the world with all these different peoples, all kinds of ethnic diversity and creatures, and people who are like, humanoid animals, and people who are mermaids, and people who have wings and live in the sky. I think that all of these lands were originally one world, and the series has actually already moved in that direction. Big spoilers here by confirming that there are lands in the world that, because of some mysterious event in a history that has been censored from everyone by the world government, some lands, all these lands have been separated, and some have been lost at the bottom of the sea. And now we got a doomsday clock effect. It was just revealed in the last arc, Egghead Island, that was just adapted for the anime. So I think that Luffy will somehow bring all of these lands together. And I think that that's what Luffy revealed off screen in a sort of like a kind of a deceptively simple bit in a previous episode, where he reveals to the crew that he has a bigger dream. And then the scene just sort of cuts and we don't hear what he said. And Luffy just seems to be in this very contemplative state, which is rare for him. And he's relaxing on his ship. He's got his eyes closed and he's like I have a bigger dream. And you get the idea that he's discovered what being king of the pirates actually means. I think he told his nakama that his bigger dream is to unite the world. I think Luffy's dream is world peace. Kind of corny, put it on a bumper sticker. But in the world of One Piece, where all of these lands have actually been broken apart by some disaster or some evil force or the evil world government or some mysterious lost weapons, I think we can safely guess that that ambition will have a literal fulfillment. In pursuing his goal of becoming the Kaizokuoni, the king of the pirates, Luffy will find the greatest treasure of all, the entire world. The entire world that he's been sailing all along with all these dangerous places and all of these different peoples. I think that he won't just earn like a certificate which says, thou art the king of the pirates. He's going to be this person who has been making friends and winning allegiances all along. And suddenly, by the time he gets there, everyone wants to make him the king. So Luffy can be not a dictator, but a good king, a good king of the pirates who believes in freedom and loyalty and virtue. By the way, I think that this also helps fulfill very literally the ambitions of many of the crew members who joined in. For example, I always thought it was funny that Sanji is looking for the legendary All Blue, an ocean that combines all of the fish of all of the different divided oceans of the world, east, south, north, and west. And supposedly there's an ocean out there which where they all come together. And we don't see how that works with the geography as it is now, but I think that too will have a literal fulfillment. Nami also wants to make a map of the world. Well, them sailing the entire world is certainly going to help her do that. But by the end, I think that she'll be mapping an entirely new world, maybe one that has very literally been brought back together. By the way, I think that this, I don't know Oda's faith. When you get that big in manga or anime, you become iconic, and he doesn't put religious ideas into the story other than actually a whole lot of kind of Christian tropes. Like there's one character, Bartholomew Kuma, who's basically described as a pastor, although there's not really any church religious system that we see. But recently the series actually has gotten more into the realm of myth and legends and even gods, or at least one god. Maybe there's a little reincarnation in there, but anyway, all that to say, I wouldn't say that, well, One Piece is a Christian story. He's a Christian, he's made it Christian, but a big story like this, an incredible, fantastical story, which is informed by all the best stories of the world. If you're a really well-read person and you're that creative, well, you're going to combine them. It's going to be kind of religion's greatest hits. And so I think that also comes from maybe this idea of the One Piece. If it's the world, if I'm right, there's a very Christian idea at the back of that. And it's this idea that, yeah, God has made one world and will eventually bring it together in the future. Not that he'll reboot the continents necessarily. I would hate to lose those continents. They're kind of cool. I've memorized where they all are, and I hate to have to remap the world myself. But one way or another, when Jesus returns, he will, as king, bring all of the world together. And so one way or another, Oda has tapped into that longing for a future paradise ruled over by a good king. And I have no doubt that is where One Piece will lead. First, however, there are a few more arcs to get through. There's a lot of bad pirates out there, including one with black hole powers. There's selfish pirates. There are selfish, evil Marines. And then there's also good Marines, Marines who truly believe in justice and are trying to do their best, even though the Marines are a corrupt system being run by the evil world government. Yep. It turns out that the world government that we've been hearing all throughout One Piece is evil all along. They have some boss overlords there, one of whom just went down in most satisfying faction. And there may even be some kind of bigger, otherworldly, evil, satanic force in there. Oda is going mythic. And so this crazy little series about a rubber pirate who bursts up out of a barrel and decides to be king of the pirates suddenly turns out to expand to mythic proportions. Well, I'm looking forward to the rest of it, however many arcs we have left to go, 2 or 3. I'm looking forward to watching the live action season 2. Should be tonight, Tuesday, March the 10th. We're going to have seafood, I think, if the Lord wills. But after all these years, I think it's fascinating how One Piece is going. This crazy series that used to be just known only in Japan, whereas everyone was talking about Dragon Ball and Pokemon, suddenly has become the top-selling, I think it is the top-selling manga in the world. A whole lot more people know about it. Netflix is going to enlarge that reach even further. And I think it's really cool that despite all these odds, One Piece, although it's not a Christian-made story, the themes end up almost Christian. There's a lot of great good versus evil concepts in there that one way or another, especially in the hands of discerning fans, can glorify our King, Jesus Christ. Thanks for letting me nerd out about this crazy, earnest, wholesome pirates with superpowers world. Our top question for you, faithful listener, is this. Okay, maybe you don't know about One Piece. Maybe now you want to check it out. Just wait, by the way, until Luffy puts the straw hat on somebody. And if you don't absolutely love it by then, by that episode, then you will never love it. But after that, you will absolutely adore it if you do love it. Our top question for you or anybody else for other stories you like is, what's your favorite crazy story with wild action and heroic heart? Might be an animated series, might be a middle grade adventure series, it might even be a film series. Like, I like, kind of the noble dark stories where there's not a whole lot of jokes and zany things. I like superhero films and fantasy that's like that, but I also love the crazy stuff. If it is earnest, if it believes in its big themes. So your favorite crazy story, send us a note. podcast@lorehaven.com is that email address, or you can tag us on the socials. Look for @Lorehaven, wherever you get your socials. Next on Fantastical Truth, Zach had this idea, and I think it fits perfectly because it's a kind of an idea underneath this topic. Adaptations. Sometimes we act like we don't like adaptations, but sometimes the adaptations actually end up pretty awesome, including the One Piece live action series Against All Odds. And sometimes these new versions of a story, whether it's the film version of a book or the TV version of the book, or maybe the TV version of the film version of the book, sometimes they change the original, but add something new and amazing to that story. So next week, Zach and I will explore the pros and cons of adaptations, whether it's One Piece or the Pendragon cycle based on the Stephen Lawhead novels, or that latest cinematic retelling of the classic superhero. Well, I love classic superheroes. I'm thrilled that Superman has sold apparently 600 million copies. Congratulations, Man of Steel. But I also love new heroes with crazy names and remixes of familiar powers like Monkey D. Luffy. I love all of his crew, and I love talking about these things with you all. I appreciate you hanging with me, and I want to hear more about your favorite stories too. Let's go on and seeking these amazing treasures wherever they may be found for the glory of God as we continue to seek and find our King's fantastical truth.